I'm Motty, that's Scotty, so this is Scotty and Motty.
I love your energy every week.
I'm so proud of myself for working that one out. How are you, brother? You good?
I'm excellent, Jay. Really
Excellent.
good. Yeah.
Why are you so excellent when United have lost? Footy's United fan, sort red and all that.
Well, that was yesterday.
How can you be happy when United lose? It's disgusting.
Because it was a decent performance.
That's weird, isn't it? Are you feeling philosophical?
Maybe. What do you mean?
Like, I don't mean like, are you about to sort of give us the meaning of life? I mean, like, can you put things into perspective?
Yes, because what I saw yesterday was we were beaten by the best team in the league, much improved Arsenal under Arteta, and for the best part of 60 minutes, I thought we were decent to get something from the game, especially when we went 1-0 up with Rashford banging it in. I seen your celebrations on the live,
mate. Do you know what I love about that goal? There was a split second when it went in where I was just had that shock. Like, how's he got that in from there? Do you know what I mean? That little split second, and then you're into, like, obviously losing the plot or what have you. Great goal. It's a shame it didn't count for anything. And Martinez's first goal for United. But I'm with you. I don't feel angry or like, oh, my God. We knew we were in a bit of a battle without Casemiro. I like what Erik ten Hag's doing. And I think that, I didn't learn anything new from that game. Like, the question marks I had were there. Yeah. And they're still there, which kind of new, but there was a few positives from it. Yeah,
and I think we've mentioned lots of times on this show and a few others is that our problem this season will be our strength in depth, and losing Casemiro is obviously a big blow for United, and I thought we did well minus him, but that might be the thing that sort of hampers us this season towards getting a silverware. I'm still adamant that we'll definitely win a trophy this season, though. But yeah, yesterday, there was no fingers to be pointed. I thought maybe McTominay had a bit of a quiet game, but it's to be expected in that position. He's not our main sort of midfielder. But yeah, I thought, there's loads of people moaning about Ten Hag's decisions and stuff like that. It's like, just hold your hands up. You got beat by the better team and move on.
Joe Smith made a good point, and which is a rarity, but it happens. And he said there is a scenario where there's nothing the manager could have done. Like, that is a possibility. Everyone's saying, like, well, he should have done this. Yeah. He should have brought Fred on earlier, or he should have put, Eriksen off and instead of taking off, was it Anthony or whatever. Like, he could have done any number of things, and we still might have lost. He might just not have had the players at his disposal to win that game. It's not always a manager who's made a mistake. You look at some games, and I don't think Erik ten Hag's infallible. I don't expect him to be his first season in the Premier League. City away, he was naive. I think he, went into that game thinking, we'll be all right with this midfield, and we weren't. Against Arsenal, I could see what he tried to do, and I think that when you look at our bench, yes, Garnacho's a good player, and Fred, I know you absolutely adore the kid, but it's not like there's loads of players on that bench where you go, right,
game changers.
It's you haven't got an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and a Teddy Sheringham to just stick on and get you the winners. So it's difficult, isn't it? Especially with an Arsenal team that are flying.
They've only been beat once this season, by us. So I mean, I've very little to complain about, and I know that Twitter football likes to have a finger to point at someone, but I just think, we're beat by the better team and you just move on to the next game. Still as optimistic as I was before the Arsenal game, to be honest.
There's some comments, so we'll get into them. Santa Not says, poor Joe Smith. Joe knows I love him, and I'm only messing. He says, something accurate at least twice a day. Tanvi Manchester 982 says, evening lads, been a while since I last tuned into you guys, so apologies. It's all right, don't apologise. King Dino says, I thought we were just as good as Arsenal until we got tired. That Palace game made a difference. It's a good point, that.
Yeah, there's a lot about that. Yeah,
horrendous for us, aren't they? They had a full week. I think they played Spurs on the Sunday, so a full week, and we had that Palace game after the derby as well, which was a big one.
There's been a few like that. I mean, the game we lost against Aston Villa as well was off the back of us coming back from Spain in the Europa League. So I don't think the fixture list has been kind to us in any shape or form, but I'm not a Liverpool fan, so I'm not going to moan about it.
Right, okay. Yeah, I like that. Someone asked, sorry, let me find it where it was, because it was a good question. It was here, and I can't see it, and I don't know. Oh, yeah. Yank YW, what do you say to Wout Weghorst? I don't think that's a joke. I mean, what do you think about him?
I thought he had a good game. He had more of an input than he did against on his debut against Palace. He was dropping deep and getting involved. I don't think he's got the supply yet, and it was going to be always a difficult game against Arsenal. But I was as a striker, you wasn't expecting more shots and stuff. But I thought he had a decent game.
No, I do, and I think that you got again. I don't want to keep using this word perspective because it gets a little bit repetitive, but this is a guy who's been playing in no disrespect to the Turkish league all season. The last time he was in the Premier League was at Burnley, and it wasn't, exactly. It's probably the worst time of his career. So he's been thrown in against Crystal Palace. He started. He starts again 4 days later or 3 days later, whatever it is. I thought he gave a good account of himself. He's not that guy who's going to come in and just bang in loads of goals. He's not Erling Haaland. He's someone who can hold the ball up, get in the mix of things, bring in other players, and I think he did a lot of that. He had a lot of energy for someone who's barely played any Premier League football before. So yeah, I thought he did all right. I do, and I think that it's one of those sometimes where we like to pick at people, and I get it. I'm as guilty as if anyone go, okay, maybe it's his fault, maybe he could have done better. Wan-Bissaka obviously could have done better for one of the goals. Yeah. I don't think there's any disputing that. Like you said about McTominay, maybe he could have been a bit more energetic or whatever. There's people you think didn't play at the top of the game, shall we say. But on the whole, I don't look at it and go, it's a disappointing performance by Manchester United. I think we did all right.
Yeah. I think if you'd have said before the game United got beat 3-2, I wouldn't have taken it, but I wouldn't have been overly disappointed. And that's exactly how I feel now. But Anthony flatters to deceive again in another game.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. Because of every United player, he's probably the one that I saw, and my timeline might be different for yours, getting probably the most grief, if grief's the right word, most criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I think I threw some criticism at him as well. Yeah, I was just saying he runs into more walls than like Wilder Coyote. He does absolutely nothing down that right hand side.
I love the contemporary references. He's so my wavelength. I actually thought he did all right yesterday. I thought he got around the pitch quite a lot. Okay, you can always say, can we have a little bit more end products? I understand that argument. But I thought the one thing, he ran out of steam a little bit, didn't he? There was like, when he got took off, I couldn't understand why he got took off. But I thought yesterday was an improvement on the Palace game. I thought the Palace game, I don't think he played well. And I think his best performances did come earlier on in the season, which, is a slight concern. Because obviously when he came in, he was scoring goals on it, and he's not really, I know he got one against Everton and one in the cup, I think. Well, that isn't the cup, sorry. I think he's got a couple in the cup. But I think with Anthony, I'm not too concerned because I think he's 22 years old. It's his first season, and we had Carl Anker on the podcast before, the Paddock podcast, and he was saying about the step up from Arriva Divisa to the Premier League is a big step up, and people obviously often don't sort of realise how long it can take you from going to a league where you can skim players,
especially in that position as well. It's not like, because Martinez, you could say the same, but I think defending is more of a sort of, it's the same art no matter whatever league you're in, as opposed to the skills that Anthony wants to try and bring down that side. I think Anthony suffers because a lot of our goals and attacks seem to come down the left. So naturally you have to contrast it with the other side. And I think that sometimes we, not because of one-man team, but we're throwing everything down the left to Rashford because it's so, it's so consistent. Things are happening down there, and that's why Anthony sort of like doesn't shine as much.
Yeah, I just hope that he keeps going and keeps trying to make things happen. See me with a winger, I think I know it sounds like, oh, is it that easy? I just want to see wingers running at defenders. I want to see him trying to make things happen. I don't mind if my winger gets tackled quite a lot. I don't mind that as long as they try to create. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's when you see wingers and they start just going backwards and holding on.
That's
to the
it. He can't get into like the 18-yard box, turning round and then heading back.
That's if that becomes constant, then you've got issues.
Like, I don't think I've seen him cross too many balls in, and maybe I'm just like old school, naive-minded.
I think
in terms of
you're right.
What a winger's supposed to be.
Nah, I don't think he's that guy.
Was it Palestra that came on against Charlton?
Yeah.
And like, if you look at him and Garnacho, they were dynamite down the side. Obviously, they're playing a lesser league team, but I don't know. Yeah, it's his first season. There's a lot to do though.
Yeah, I think as well on the crossing thing. I mean, he's all left foot, isn't he? He's not. He's never going to whip that one. He's. But isn't
that weird though?
Yeah,
playing him on the right wing.
I mean, like, I think he did that for Ajax, didn't he? And it's like Ten Hag obviously wanted him. Like, it was obviously like, that's go and get him. Because I don't think United were like forcing this. Oh, someone who's played for Ten Hag for 2 seasons, so he obviously knows what he's about. Yeah. I don't think he thought, well, if we get Andy, he's going to cross it in, and then I need to go and get a 6'5" striker to get it for it. So you know, I'm at the stage of Ten Hag where I trust him and I get he knows what he's doing. And I think for me now, as a fan, I'll speak for myself, we've just got to be a little bit patient, because I think what's happened is, and I'm talking about again myself, we have this run and you get excited and you think, oh, right,
yeah,
something going on here. And then you think, hang on a minute, you've got to remember, like, we haven't got the squad we need. I think we've all agreed on that. We're up against a lot of teams who've also spent money and have also got good managers and who've also got high expectations, and many of them have got, well, practically all of them except Chelsea have got more. Well, actually, even Chelsea got more Premier League experience, and Graham Potter than Erik ten Hag has. So he's up against it a little bit. I remember saying before the season started, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying I expected it to happen or even wanted it. Obviously, I didn't want it to happen, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility that we could have finished sixth again.
Yeah.
Because Spurs have got Conte, and I know now with hindsight, you look at their transfer window and you think it weren't that clever. But at the time, they'd gone early in the transfer window with Basuma, with Jed Spence, with Palestra, with Perisic, and then Richarlison. I think scratched beneath the surface. You think actually they didn't buy any first team players, did they?
No.
So you got them. Chelsea, I thought would be in the mix. Top four, they've just, obviously, absolutely not imploded, but not far off it. You expected the Scousers to be there. City were always going to be there. Arsenal, you thought might be in the top four mix. Do you know what I mean? I thought it could be a task for us to get into the top six.
We're well ahead.
Top four, sorry.
We're well ahead of where we expected we would be in the summer.
We asked this question on the podcast before, and I'll ask it you, because you said you think we'll win a trophy.
Yep.
What's your priority now? If you're Erik ten Hag, right, you're looking at your squad, you're looking at all the games you've got. We've got a game every 3.2 days, I think, after a certain amount of time. We've got games constantly. Yeah. So you go, right, all right, I might not have the squad for everything here. I might have to cut my cloth accordingly. What's your priority?
Silverware.
So if that is the case, where do you look at your best option of silverware? Or do you think you can go for it in all of them?
I think we can go for it in all of them.
Because you're in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup.
I think we can definitely win that one.
You've got Barca in that two-legged game we shouldn't even have to play.
Yeah.
People remember the bloody rules. And then we've got Reading in I was going to say the Copa America. I don't know what the hell that's all about. The FA Cup. It's easy to get them two confused. The FA Cup, 4th round, I think, is it? Yeah, because we beat Everton in the 3rd round, didn't we? So you're saying go for all of them, or do you say one of them? Would you be tempted to maybe rest players in the league if you had to, or I've got I don't know.
Well, for me, you'd rest players against Reading.
Yeah,
because you'd be expecting to win that game, right? Forest is a semi-final, so you've got to go big in the first leg there. Yeah. Fingers crossed in the first leg we get a decent enough margin that we can maybe rest players afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think being this close now, and people may say, oh, it's only the Carabao Cup, I couldn't care less. This close to actually getting to a Wembley, I just think that momentum pushes you through as fans as well as players.
There's quite a few comments on Anthony. Yankee W says, I think Anthony has to go to the gym a lot. Glenn F says he needs someone overlapping him and underlapping for him, and Delo created space for him.
We've looked a bit different since Delo's been injured, do you not think?
Yeah, Sandy Notch also says, when Anthony was subbed, you could see he knew he'd offered nothing in attack. So, yeah, quite a few people point out his faults. Delo's a good player. I like Delo.
Yeah.
And I think Wan-Bissaka is very good at tackling, which is obviously important for a defender. And he's had a good spell, hasn't he, under Ten Hag, when people had written him off. Or thought, I haven't written him off, but thought his United career at least was over. But I do think Delo has more to his game. And I think that he fits into the system much better than Wan-Bissaka does.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And there's always a great Paolo Maldini quote that I tend to go back to with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And Maldini always says, if I need to slide tackle, that means I've not done my job correctly. Because it's all about positional play. Yeah. You shouldn't have to be on your backside.
Yeah.
Now, he's a bit box office with that, isn't he, Andy Wan-Bissaka? I'm not saying he doesn't make great tackles, but if you were better with your positioning, then you wouldn't need to make that.
Do you feel, right? I feel with Wan-Bissaka, and I think it was Gary Neville, or it might be Gary Neville, said that he's ripped up that rule book, because it's like with him, the way he tackles is better than when he sort of stands on his feet. Do you know what I mean? Like, you saw it against, was it at Martinelli yesterday? Was it Martinelli?
Yeah.
It might have been Nketiah. Or a better example, Wilfried Zaha. Do you know what I mean?
He had a good game against
Liverpool. Like Zaha said, I think after the game, he said, when I saw it was Aaron, because obviously he's played together, he said, I knew I wasn't going to score, I knew he was going to get the ball. But like, I think it was Gary Neville or someone was saying, I'm going to get to talk about pundits in a bit, like, you know, you're always told, like you say, you should, like, tackling your last gasp thing.
Yeah.
But with him, it's like it seems to suit his game more to do that. And he seems to struggle when he's not tackling for some reason.
But it suits his game more. I don't think
That's what I mean.
No, it suits his game more, but it doesn't suit Manchester United's game more.
Because I think if he's not tackling, if he's just staying on his feet, he seemed. You remember when it was like when City swapped Foden for Sterling?
Yeah.
And he struggled, didn't he? With Sterling, he just kept tackling him, just kept flying in, and he times it really well. But I just feel like you say, and like I was saying about Delot comes in, gets forward a lot more, links up with his teammates a lot more, is sound defensively. There's this misconception that he's not good defensively, and I think that's unfair, because I think he is. And I think that...
That's what I mean. I think we struggled down the right-hand side since Delot's been injured, because Wan-Bissaka's top skill is tackling.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we've struggled going down that side.
So you're saying, basically, Reading, rest a few.
Yep.
Go for it against Forest.
Yeah, man.
Barca, strongest team.
Yeah. Well, you can't not put your strongest team out against Barca.
We were talking before, and like Joe was saying, well, do you look at that game and go, is it, if we have to make a decision, do we have to play our strongest team in the league if it's that close and just go, worst case scenario, we don't go through to the next round of the Europa League, or do you play your strongest team and risk it? I
don't know, and this is something that's going to be interesting post the Arsenal game, is how the players respond to it. So if we put like a half-assed team against Barca and we went out, does that have a negative effect?
That's what I said.
On the morale, because that's why I don't want. Because let's say he puts like a weakened team out against Reading and they get beat. He puts a weakened team out against Barca. Then all of a sudden you're notching up the losses.
Yeah, and it was where was it, Charlton, where we ended up. I know it was only the last half hour, but we ended up bringing all the big guns out, didn't we? Yeah. Because it was like it's weird sometimes. This team, like United team, look like we can beat anyone, and we've beaten everyone.
But that was 3 days after they played. Was it Everton that we played at the weekend?
That's what I mean. Like, and I worry sometimes. Like games catch up with you. There's one or two players, and I think every team's a little bit guilty of this. Every team's got one or two players where if they lose that player or those two players are in trouble. Yeah. Like if City lose De Bruyne and Haaland, they're in trouble. If Arsenal lose Xhaka and probably Bukayo Saka, or maybe Odegaard and Bukayo Saka, they struggle, or they be in a bit of trouble. Spurs, it's probably Kane and who's the other one?
Son's not having a good season, is it?
No, it's not. Sorry? Kulusevski. Is it? Who's the other midfielder they got? Not Højbjerg. There's one that plays really well for him. I can't. Bentancur, that's the one I was thinking. Rodrigo Bentancur. I've seen a few Spurs fans saying that he's having a good season and that when he's missing, they struggle.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I get your point. That like teams, if they lose two players,
yeah, Ben R in the chat. Thank you.
We'll sort of fall by the wayside. I mean, that theory runs short when you look at Liverpool.
Fucking hell. I mean, they could lose anyone. It will make a difference. They can lose everyone. Everyone can stay fit. They're still crap.
2023 is decent, man. Don't you think? Like, for football, it's a good year. I know we got beat at the weekend, but looking at like what we're on now, the 22nd of Jan. It's been a cracking first 3 weeks.
It has been a cracking first few weeks. You look at some results we've had. Obviously, winning the derby was massive for us. Liverpool's just been really strange. Weren't they getting booed the other day against Chelsea? Which was strange, wasn't it? Because like 0-0.
City fans booing their own players as well.
And then Pep coming out and saying he needs more from the fans and all that, which is he's sort of like, you know, I mean, managers do that sometimes. People point out, well, Fergie said that, and like I know that can happen, but it's not the first time Pep's thrown a bit of shade at fans, and it was last season when he was saying they need to turn up more, like we need to come to the games. And now it's like you need to sing when you're there and all that. So he doesn't mind having a bit of a dig. He also does it with some of his players, doesn't he? He said Calvin Phillips had put on a load of weight. And then he said, what else? Some of the players, I think he questioned the desire or whatever. It's kind of a bit of a motivational thing. But yeah, 2023 so far, there's been some funny moments, hasn't there, from a United point of view. I want to talk about pundits because this is something that's come up a lot this season. And it's like, there's always been this thing, hasn't there, with United, since we were kids, of pundits sort of hating on us. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And everyone talks about like Alan Hansen and you don't win anything, or you never win anything with kids, but I don't even think that was
I didn't mind Hansen.
No, I don't. I didn't.
As much as Lawrenson. I think Hansen was a little bit more impartial compared to some of the more.
He was, and I kind of got his argument at the time because it made sense when he said it. He just looked stupid now.
That was uncharted territory. Yeah. Who's won a league with that?
With 5 youngsters coming through when you've lost Paulins, Mark Hughes, and Andrzej Kanchelskis.
Yeah.
And after that first defeat to Villa in the opening day, you probably think, well, they're not going to win anything here. But then Eric comes back. We've got good players as well, and all these youngsters happen to be basically half the England team, and obviously when Welsh won for the next 10 years. But it seems like this season, Santa Knox says Gabby, at Bonlahor, he's one who's always coming out with anti-United stuff. TalkSport full of them. You've had Simon Jordan, we've had Danny Murphy. Richard Keys over in beIN Sports, he always seems to throw shade. We saw more of it after the City game because everyone lost their minds there, didn't they? With that perfectly legitimate goal that Bruno Fernandes scored. But is there anyone that stands out to you where you go, I can't bear this? Or are you a bit like, they do it for effect, I'm okay with it, I get it?
There was a time that I would have bit left, right and centre like a starving fish on a line. To every sort of sound bite they put out there for me to click on. But now I just find it absolutely comical. I'm like, they don't believe half the bullshit they say.
Yeah.
I mean, Gabby Bonglahor might do because he's thick as mince. But he really is the winner.
It makes me laugh because he's a player, right? As a player, I don't remember any drama, rivalry, connection between United and him.
Yeah.
Right? He didn't play for any of our rivals. I think he spent most of his career at Villa, and Villa were never really in our sort of stratosphere when he was there. There was nothing where you went, okay, we cost him the title or whatever because we won it and he was second. There was no game that I can remember anyway where there was some tasty challenges going around or whatever. It was like, he seems to have a real hatred and
because he knows
nonsense.
That it works though, doesn't it? And I'm not having the obviously meetings beforehand saying let's just use the United angle to get callers in and stuff.
Yeah.
Me and you both know someone who works at TalkSport, and I was asking them about Gabby Bonglahor, and they said he's not a bad lad, he's just really stupid.
Say that about
and
a lot of people, including me. Probably.
I think that was a compliment. But what do you need? What's the sort of CV that you need to be a football pundit? I've had this argument loads of times with good mate of mine, Ian, and he used to always say, well, if you're an ex-pro, you know more about the game than anyone that's not played it. And I'm not too sure if that's true.
Get involved in the comments. Go through some of the comments, and that's an interesting point. Heaven Soul says TalkSport are just pumping out content with the intent of bait, especially when they retweet a random Wally Twitter reply that blindly agrees with every soundbite. Santa Knox says Richard Keys is an absolute weapon, but hey, he knows about modern football. Wesley Manx says Lawrenson was a dry git, funny as fuck, ran rings round BBC heads. There's a few comments there about... Andrew Jones says League Cup Final 2010, United versus Villa. I was in that game. Yeah, maybe that's what did him. Actually, was it? I can't remember. I think it was the Spurs one I went to. There is that argument anyway. You've played the game, you know more about it. But I think sometimes, like Graeme Souness has played the game at a very high level.
Yeah.
He's won European Cups, he's won league titles, he's had a long career, and he's managed for a long time as well. And he's probably come out with more nonsense than anyone. Like, I think sometimes as well, if you're an ex-player from a certain era, that can almost, in some cases, go against you. Because you're judging players now on what went on in your day.
Yeah,
and that isn't the case.
No. I mean, Keane suffers from this as well. And obviously he was playing a lot later into his career than Graeme Souness, about just smashing into players. And I'm fully behind Roy Keane and his wonderful moustache. But I think that game is gone, do you know what I mean? And I think Souness dates himself. But then again, he still finds himself having a platform.
Yeah, and it's like there's certain things like where I love like listening to ex-players and any players playing at that level when they talk about certain aspects, you know, what it's like in the dressing room, what it's like in the manager giving you the team sort, what it's like, maybe a few anecdotes you've got from that play, and that's something we won't have. But then when you're looking at analysis and you think, what are you on about? Like certain things like you're saying, like going out there and smashing, like in the 80s, for example, when Souness was playing, you could go out there and kick lumps out of each other.
Yeah.
Like there was a documentary on Brian Robson, and it spoke about him and Souness having this like battle, and Souness is in the documentary, and they kicked 7 bells out of each other, but there was a mutual respect, and they never threw fists or anything, but they get away with it. And I think you did that now, it's a red card. As soon as that first challenge goes to VAR, red card.
Yeah.
And your team's down to 10 men. Do you know what I mean? What applied then doesn't apply now. Now, a lot of football is the same, but some of it's changed, and I think they've not changed with it. Do you know what I mean? So you can get pundits who are, from a certain age, who understand that there are differences now between when they played and now. And they'll go, right, you know what, that's not acceptable, or that's not okay. And yet there's some pundits who think, oh yeah, just go out and just one hour someone. Do you know what I mean? It'll be fine. We used to do that in my day, and we'd have 12 pints.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, that's not what players do now, is it?
Well, and the thing is that I always wonder, are they being outlandish to stay on the TV? Because they know that by saying stupid stuff that they may not agree with, or because they are dated in their view of football, it does get the clicks. And if you look at Graeme Souness' transition from Sky over to TalkSport, I mean, he couldn't find a better home, could he, for his views?
No.
I mean, yeah. It's absolutely perfect for him. But I'm not too... What do you think then? Do you think you have to be a footballer to be a better pundit?
I think it can help, but I think David Harrington says that's a nonsense opinion from Scotty's mate. I played football all my life. Playing a higher level doesn't instantly give you better ball knowledge. So I think it can help because you've got that experience of certain things that you've done in terms of, you know what it's like to say we were Saturday doing a watch along for a Premier League game. And you've got some we had Nathan Ellington on the other week, didn't he? He knows what it's like to play in a Premier League game. He knows what it's like to go to Old Trafford and be in that dressing room, and he's got some anecdotes.
He can paint the picture of the scene and stuff, and he can say experience about.
That doesn't also automatically know he's going to have all the answers.
No,
I'm not talking about him specifically because he's really good at what he does and he does his own work and stuff. But there might be some players who I've met ex-players who don't even like football.
A lot of them don't.
Yeah, not interested in it. We've hung around with players, ex-players that don't like football, don't have an interest in it, don't watch football. And I think as well where you can fall short as an ex-pro, and I see this a lot. Do you remember like Gillette Soccer Saturday? And there was all this sort of furore when they got rid of a lot of the old guard. And I remember what happened is they talk about the Premier League a lot because that'd be the main thing. And then they talk about United have got a. I remember there's one game. I think it was Liverpool playing Dortmund. In the it might have even been the Europa League actually. I think it was. I think they ended up coming back from 3-0 down to win 4-3 or something stupid. And they were asking the panel about, Liverpool got this game against Dortmund and what do you think about this? And almost all of them admitted they hadn't watched any of Dortmund. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, they had all.
And they were sat on the telly talking about this game and trying to give a level of insight to it.
Yeah.
When they couldn't even name you 4 Dortmund players, and I just think. That's when it's lazy, and that's when you're just not even doing your own work. And someone said it here earlier, Miles said, some credit to your career and either an entertaining or insightful spin to the sport. Think Ian Wright or Danny Higginbottom. Danny Higginbottom's a good example, because Danny Higginbottom played at a high level, but he wasn't good enough to play for Manchester United under Fergie for any long period of time. I think he played about 10 times and went and moved on. But if you ever see him as a pundit, he's
really good, yeah.
He's done his own work. He'll know the team he's commenting on. He'll know the opposition. Well, that's both teams, isn't it? He'll know what's changed. He'll know if they're playing a different system today, or this player's been dropped, and here's the reason why I think that's happened. He does his own work, so he's not necessarily one of the players you associate with being the very top level or an elite footballer. He's a very good footballer and he's elite in terms of Premier League standard, but he wasn't someone who you'd put in the Scholes or the Beckham's classes or whatever. But in terms of his punditry, he's as good as almost as anyone because he does his own work.
Yeah, I mean, Danny Higginbottom, and I might be wrong here, but he definitely comes across as someone who's either gone back to university to do some sort of journalism or done some sort of course, whereas the others are just talking heads in there because of their experience as a player. One of the things I always go back to when it's punditry and the importance of actually playing the game to being able to talk a bit knowledgeable is when you look at managers. How many top elite football managers used to be players?
We had this discussion before.
Because I'm pretty sure...
Not me and you, I think.
And I might get it wrong, but I think Arrigo Sacca used to be a shoe salesman.
Really?
So Jose Mourinho never played football.
His dad was a keeper, wasn't he, Mourinho?
Do you know what I mean? But he never played football. But
I think Wenger only barely played it, didn't he? Ferguson was a bit different. I think he was at Rangers, wasn't he? So it was a decent level. But no, you're right. There's a lot of... there are some managers out there who...
Well, Frank Lampard's just got sacked today for Everton.
That's a good example because you look at like Lampard,
Solskjaer.
Gerrard, Solskjaer. These are the
Robson, Keane,
Bobby
Bruce.
The best players, some of the best players ever. And never quite made it as managers.
Nobody who played under Ferguson's really gone on to have a great managerial career. Bruce has probably had the longest, but not the most successful.
He's had a lot of...
Although our producer tonight, Ethan, may disagree, because I know he'll be a big Steve Bruce fan, as he's a Newcastle fan.
It's good to see John Shin in the chat as well.
Hey, John.
Says, many pundits on TV, hella lame, but... hella lame, no taste, no creativity. Some are fantastic, but most are blind and hell no spice.
Maurizio Sarri was a banker.
Maurizio Sarri, yeah.
Paul Clement was a PE teacher.
See, there's hope for us all.
Yeah.
Who's going to be the first YouTuber?
Well, Steve Alson's gone from...
Steve Alson, if he gets Paddock FC...
What's he gone from the army to the bleeding dugout?
Yeah.
There's his title.
There you go. That'll be in bookstores in 2027. From the army to the dugout. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it shows that, you know, you don't have to...
I'm trying to find a pun on, like, from the Bora Bora to
the boardroom.
To the boot room.
From the trenches to the dugout.
I thought that, from the trenches to the dugout. Yeah, that's probably the better one. Well done.
If you're looking for a ghostwriter.
Ethan, I've put a link to our Patreon in the chat. Patreon's going to have some extra content coming up later on this week. We always put an extra video up this week for our Patreon customers day. It's £2 a month if you can afford it. Great. If not, you'll get your usual Scotty and Motty here on a Monday. We're back next Monday.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so we're back later on this week with a video. And the next Monday, actually, I think there's a bit of a... Oh, don't forget to like the video. Well said, Miles. I think there's a bit of a Sloppy Joe's collab maybe coming on.
Do I get a say in any of this?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think because I was speaking to Joe Smith earlier and he said you guys might be here Monday, so we might do a little bit of...
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, while we've got people listening and watching, me and Jay are thinking about doing a live show this year. So if you could tell us if you're interested to see me and thee.
Because we did a live show. I did a live show with... You've done loads of live shows.
Wait. Not we. You did a live show as a guest at Sloppy Joe's.
I did a live show as a guest at Sloppy Joe's. Yeah. And I don't mean to brag, but my performance is still spoke about to this day. Mainly by me, but that's not the point. We did a live show at Paddock. You've done hundreds of live shows around the country, so you're used to it.
Europe.
Sorry, forgive me. Around Europe, Wales, Scotland, England.
And Ireland. I played Dublin before you. Had the crack.
Wow, can't believe you talked about that live.
It's not like us to talk about drugs. Anyway,
yeah. So we are going to do a live show. If people wanted us to, we're sort of maybe doing like a super show, like a Woodstock.
No, we're not.
Right,
we'll do that afterwards.
All right, you want to do our own first.
I'm thinking Field of Dreams. If you ask the people, do they want to come? We'll book it.
If they build it. We will come. Yeah, so let us know if you fancy seeing a live show, and we'll put on a live show. Most likely in Manchester, innit? Where else are we going to do it?
Yeah, Liverpool. That'd get that. We can tell you what.
Be a very short show, that.
Pitchforks outside. These fucking manx out of our city. I've been Scotty. That's been Motty. Thank you, everybody that's been watching this week. Thanks to producer Ethan, who's been doing a bit of a photo shoot beforehand as well, so there'll be some snaps of me and Jay available on onlymanx.com. Until next week, but thanks, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends.